Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Baylor Scott & White's Sports Performance Center, Athletes Made Here. The Sports Performance Center was developed with one goal in mind: to maximize human performance through movement and recovery. Their team of expert performance sports coaches and trainers will guide you to achieve your performance goals. That's the Baylor Scott & White Sports Performance Center, located at the Star in Frisco. This episode is also brought to you by Allen Dental Studio. Located off Bethany Drive in Allen, their office was designed with you, the patient, in mind, which means an excellent and enjoyable experience. From cosmetics to implants, you deserve a perfect smile, and Allen Dental Studio can make that happen. Also, don't want to leave out another longtime friend of the podcast, Texan Senior Residential Care Homes. With locations in Carrollton and Dallas, Texan Senior Residential Care Homes offers an affordable, high-quality alternative to senior living. Call now at 469-400-7650. That's Texan, spelled T-E-X-S-E-N, Texan Senior Residential Care Homes. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. What's going on over there? My name is Welch, being joined by Kendrick Johnson.
Like he always does.
Being joined by Kendrick Johnson, Bryan Murphy, and Taylor Raglin. Gentlemen, it is Monday, and we're going to reprise the same idea that we brought to the table last week. We're going to revisit some preseason predictions, only this time talking about our 5A districts. Whereas last week we went back through, checked back through our summer district preview podcast, went back and basically just tried to gauge how much has changed based on the teams that we predicted to make the playoffs way back in August. Now we're going to talk three of our 5A districts today. We're going to talk 5A Division 1 and then the two 7-5A districts, Division 1 and Division 2. And yes, I went through and I wrote down who you guys projected to make the playoffs back in August. So let's start, Bryan, over in 5A Division 1 with the Frisco district plus Little Elm and the Colony. At the start of the year, the Lone Star hype was starting to build a bit, and that was enough for you to pick the Rangers to win the district initially, followed by the Colony, and then Frisco Independence, and then Little Elm. So with district play about to begin for 5A D1, is that still your top four? What has changed, I guess, since August?
Little Elm is kind of concerning me a little bit. I mean, they've had some tough games, against 6A, Keller Central, and then Birdville. So they're coming off back-to-back losses. Last year they were, kind of in a similar boat heading into district play. It's kind of good that they're getting Lone Star out of the way this week.
What do you mean?
Knock that.
Put that one to pasture as soon as you can.
And then they can battle it out, with the Centennials and the Wakelands and Independence and whatnot. But I think Wakeland, that showing against McKinney North last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, was really strong, especially with their backup quarterback in Peyton Lewis. They hung 63 points. A lot of teams put up a lot of points on McKinney North, who we'll talk about later in this podcast. But but they look good with the backup quarterback, and they have some marquee wins in non-district play that Little Elm maybe doesn't have. So I still think it's between Wakeland and Little Elm for that 4th spot.
Okay.
I think the top three is the same.
But Lone Star, man, they're even better than I expected.
That's the thing. We didn't even, because we talked, this same concept except with 6A last week, we didn't even get a chance to really talk about their game against Highland Park.
True.
Your Rapid Reaction podcast is really the only the audio that we have on that. So what, that kind of just changes the landscape for what Lone Star might be capable of this season. Is the first team in Texas to hand Highland Park a home loss in 21 years.
Since 1998, and they didn't just beat them, dude. They beat them good.
Oh, yeah. It was a competitive game.
That was like I thought it was just like a joke.
That was the real deal since 1998.
Yeah, like Pulaski Academy beat them a few years ago. But
team from Arkansas,
but no team from Texas has done it. Since
they beat them in like 2014. The team from Arkansas.
That is, Kendrick.
Well, that team from Arkansas is the one that doesn't go for it on fourth, or they go for it on 4th down. They never punt. But anyways, Lone Star, they scored on the first play of the game. Yeah. Marvin Mims. Dude, Marvin Mims is leading the area in receiving.
Special.
And he had a bye week last week.
Must-see TV. When I say must-see, you got to check him out.
What a week for the podcast. He was our guest, because that was named Game of the Week. He was the guest for the podcast the day before they kick off against Highland Park, and he has, on the short list of the best high school games that he's ever played.
Oh, yeah. 10 catches, 220 yards. He returned the opening kickoff, across midfield to the 45. The very first play of the game from scrimmage, scores a 45-yard touchdown. And that just set the tone. They're up 24-0 at the half. I was kind of asking around the press box. I was like, hey, when was the last time Highland Park was shut out at the half anywhere, not just at home, but just in general.
That's a great question.
And like, one of the Highland Park beat writers, from one of the newspapers down there, he was like, I don't know. No one knew. And I was like, this
never
is big.
happens to them.
I mean, granted, it was Friday the 13th, so I don't know. Some weird things are happening that night anyways. But no, they're no fluke. I mean, Garrett Rangel, there was some question marks, how good would he be? Coach Rayburn was really high on him, coming into the season, with the Chandler Galbon injury heading into week 1. And he called Rangel a stud, and he's even better than I thought. And he's leading the area right now in passing yards, too, with almost 1,100. He's got 11 touchdowns, 7 of which to Garrett Rangel. He's a sophomore quarterback, and he was on the JV last year, starting JV as a freshman. So he's a homegrown Lone Star kid, and so he knows the system. And he told me after that game, he said, "I just launch it up to Marvin and just let him do his thing." I mean, why not?
When you've got a target like that out wide, it's certainly makes things a little bit easier.
Okay, we talk about Mims and Garrett Rangel. That defense might be even better than they were last year
that's
too.
The thing, because
the fact that they made Chandler. I have people that was at the game besides you. They said that Chandler Morris didn't know what you could tell he was a state MVP and state championship game.
Anytime he tried to scramble, he was getting corralled in the pocket. He couldn't even get out of the pocket really. Man, Lone Star has this big defensive end, Jaden Jones. He's 6'7", 6'8". He's just a monster.
Basketball player?
He wasn't on the team last year that I know of, but he would just. One time he flung Morris down to the ground for a sack, and it was just like.
When people Lone Star be showing up at? How did they show up?
I thought the best defense they ever had was with Nick Bolton and Noah Velser, and then Trey Taylor last year and stuff like that. And they're even better. Their secondary is huge. They moved Torrin Pittman from linebacker to safety. He had a big interception, one of the 4 picks that they had against Morris. Man, this is elite defense. And then you add an elite receiver, and they have a new running back in Jake Bogdan, who they call him, or Rayburn calls him his Christian McCaffrey Swiss Army knife. Okay. And he's dynamic. Playing, they didn't have a running back like that last year. So, man, this team is just leaps and bounds even better than they were last year. The team went multiple rounds deep.
My question for you is, can they handle expectations?
Yes.
Number 1 next to them, everywhere go. Because a lot of teams we see, they're good and they're under the radar. They get that number 1, stuff changes.
I think you go to Highland Park and beat Highland Park, you prove that you.
That's the highest expectations.
And then, but this ain't November and December though.
I'm just. Nobody expected them to win that game, but that doesn't mean they were under the radar.
I did.
Brian did. I think I won't ever doubt a team that does that. You go to Highland Park and just absolutely embarrass them on their own, field. As far as I'm concerned, you've kind of. I don't know. You're capable of doing whatever you want.
And Rayburn's one of those coaches. He's not going to let his team, see the number 1 ranking in the state and be like, get way too over themselves. He's going to keep them,
the thing is, that one's going to be there now until they lose.
Until they play the Colony, and if they lose to the Colony, obviously that would drop. But that's the only team that's even going to give them a game in 5-5A Division I. It's not like they're going to blow out everyone else except the Colony. I think they're going to beat the Colony pretty good too.
Yeah, so you've been to the Colony. You had a chance to see them in action when they just thumped Reedy. Second week
and they're great. Their offense is so dynamic. They have they don't have quite a Marvin Mims, but they have close. And Keith Miller, Miles Price is obviously. I think Marvin Mims is a better football player. No offense, Miles Price, but he's Miles Price is easily the second best that that I've seen this year outside of Marvin Mims, and they're in the same district. And then they have Christian Gonzalez, they have freaking Keith Miller, and then they have Mikey Harrington. So you have 3 Division I receivers playing the same position. Then they'll go both ways, cornerback, receiver. It's tough. But Reedy's not Reedy this year. And we'll talk about them later, obviously, but I think Lone Star is just that much better this year. It's going to be a good game, but I think Lone Star gets their revenge.
Okay. Let's see. So that is all right. So right now, if you had to amend things, I guess, who would you say are your 4 predicted playoffs?
The top 3 have not changed at all.
We didn't even mention Independence.
Independence looks so good. I mean, we mentioned Braylon Braxton and Keon Wafer. The receiver stepped in. He's among the area leaders in receiving yards this year. Braylon Braxton is right behind Rangel in area for passing yards, and he's also had a bye week.
Dylan Markowitz is ahead of them. Update your stats.
Well, they're tied right now. Well, according to last week, but he's played 1 less game. So going into that, they were dead even. Braylon Braxton has thrown 15 touchdowns, and he already has a bye week this year also. Independence, they've been blowing up everyone. I haven't seen them play yet in person. They've had some faraway games and whatnot.
What's the competition been like?
J.J. Pierce.
Pierce.
They play J.J. Pierce. They play. I'll have that up in a sec. But you know, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They played Denton. They beat the brakes out of Denton 63-7 last week. You know, similar score to what Lone Star did to them. It's not their fault. You know, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's not changed. They're 3-0 along with the Colony and Lone Star. It's that 4th seed that I just don't know. It's ultimately it's going to come down between Wakeland and Little Elm.
Okay.
Still, I thought that before the year, but you know, Wakeland might be better right now, but you know, there's still a lot of football left to be played. The winner of that game, you know, obviously has the upper hand, but you know, Centennial, you know, they've kind of surprised me in a kind of a bad way. I thought they were gonna, you know, your alma mater. I thought, you know, I got a lot of flack on Twitter, you know, before the season started. I picked them to finish 5th or 6th.
Bryan Murphy.
So I already got plenty of flack. You know, they were, you know, a bunch of Centennial guys were tweeting me and whatnot. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm not, you know, prove me wrong. I really want y'all to prove me wrong. What do I know? You know,
they have every opportunity to prove where they belong in the district.
And they have dynamic playmakers. Rich Tejada, you know, they have really good players. They just don't have a quarterback right now. You know, trying to replace Weston Symes from last year, who's kind of like Donnie Menzel on the football field. He was so good, so dynamic, and they've kind of struggled. They've gone through like 2 or 3 different guys at quarterback, and that's kind of hurt them, you know, offensively. So, you know, and they were shut out against Lake Dallas. So, you know, that's really uncharacteristic of Centennial. So, I mean, you know, I thought they'd be vying for that, you know, 4th playoff spot, but right now I don't know. So I think it's a 2-horse race right now between Wakeland and Little Elm. But we'll see if Centennial can emerge. You know, Heritage, you know, seems like they have a quarterback of the future, but you know, they're a year or 2 away from, you know, being a playoff team. So we'll see.
So tough in that district, man.
It is.
I mean, what are you going to do? Even with the Colony and Lone Star at the top, and now Independence too. Like, even if you're Independence, like, well, best team they probably ever had, and they feel so good about them.
I don't know. That team a couple years ago, Don Williams was so good. He might have been the best running back I've ever seen in high school.
But in any case, I mean, they got to be sitting there thinking, like, man, if we were just anywhere else other than underneath these 2 freaking teams.
You mentioned something interesting about 9-6A the other night. After we got back to the office, you said there's going to be a clear cut. You know, Allen isn't going to lose to anyone. Prosper's going to beat everyone except Allen, and Jesuit's going to beat everyone except Prosper and Allen. You were just kind of spitballing, nothing official, but you're just kind of throwing things out there. That might be the same case in this district. You might have, you know, Lone Star beat everyone, the Colony beat everyone except Lone Star, and then Independence beat everyone except those top 2, and then 4 through 7 is just, I don't know.
We will, let's see, we've got 2 more districts to talk about. We will get to the 7-5As in just a moment. First, got to shine that student-athlete spotlight. And speaking of teams that are on a roll right now, Prosper just tearing things up in District 9-6A. Bryan, you had a chance to swing by and talk with their quarterback, Jackson Berry, as Prosper's coming off an emphatic win over McKinney last week. We'll see what Jackson had to say after a word from the sponsor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media. 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast. All right, I'm here with Prosper quarterback Jackson Berry. And Jackson, man, Prosper's off to a red-hot start. You're undefeated to begin the season, man. What has been the recipe to the success so far?
Just worked over the summer, worked last year after the season, and just every day in here in the weight room, in film, on the field, working hard, trying to get better every single day.
Now, heading into this past off season and heading into this season, you know, you kind of knew you were going to be the guy, you know, at quarterback taking over for Keegan Shoemaker. You know, did you do anything differently, you know, to prepare for the season, knowing that you would or could be the varsity starter?
I mean, kind of prepare like a backup as you would a starter. Just try to be the best you can, make every rep your best rep, and I got Tyler Bailey behind me, pushing me every single day to be the best person I can be.
Now, what did you kind of learn, you know, from playing? I mean, you got some playing time last year, you know, at times in various situations with the offense. You know, what did you learn from that experience, and kind of what did you learn from, you know, Keegan, you know, playing behind him last year?
Really, I just learned that I needed to grow up mentally. He taught me a lot of things about the mental aspect of the game and how to carry yourself off the field, really, and I appreciate all that. Now,
you mentioned Tyler Bailey, and he's been a big weapon of yours. Y'all found ways to use him on offense, and a lot of other guys, you know, Hayden Metcalf, and, you know, the list is on and on and on. And you have a great offensive line that we haven't even mentioned. You know, how much easier do those guys make your job on offense?
Oh, they make it super easy. All I got to do is get the ball to them, and they can just do the rest for me.
Now, y'all are in 9-6A, you know, one of the tougher districts. You know, there's the big beast in there in Allen, but y'all are coming off a big win over McKinney, blowout win. You haven't really been tested so far this season. How good was it to start the district season with that blowout win over McKinney, like the way y'all did?
It was awesome. It gives us a lot of confidence going the rest of the district games, and we're just going to keep getting better every single day.
Now, that Flower Mound game, a lot of people kind of didn't predict that. I'm not going to lie. I did actually pick y'all to win that game, but I didn't think it was going to be like that. What did that kind of do, for y'all's confidence, with a marquee win like that so early in the season?
It just gives us a ton of confidence. Everybody picked against us, and we believed in ourselves, and we just believed within the locker room, and we just went out there and played like we did.
Now, I know y'all don't play Allen, for a while, until the second to last game of the season, I believe. What are y'all looking ahead to that game at all? I know you'll take it 1 week at a time, but, how much is Allen on y'all's minds, especially, in this district?
Not really at all. Everyone brings it up, but Coach Schmidt keeps us level-headed, always tells us to focus on this week and go 1-0, so we're just focused on Plano East right now.
Now, so Jackson, when you're not playing football or you're busy with schoolwork, what are you doing in your free time?
Really just trying to keep my body healthy and getting rest, eating good, getting hydrated. That's pretty much it. Now,
I understand you're a Cowboys fan, so you're a big Dak fan, but who would you say is a professional athlete or quarterback or collegiate or in the NFL that you look up to and try and model your game after?
Baker Mayfield. I love his game.
What about his game do you love?
Just how he can escape the pocket, sit in the pocket, and throw big throws when he has rush in his face, and really just be a team leader and step up in front of the team, and the team knows that he can lead them to victory.
All right, thanks, Jackson.
No problem.
Thanks again to Jackson Berry for taking the time to chat with Bryan for our Student Athlete Spotlight as we continue revisiting our preseason predictions for a few of our 5A districts. So 5A Division 1 is in the books. Let's round this out with a look at our 2-7-5A districts starting in Division 1. Kendrick, this is shaping up to be one of the crazier districts that we've covered in recent memory.
It can't be crazier than last year.
Yeah.
Last year they had 4 tiebreakers.
Buckle up, man.
It might be.
All right, so let's revisit where you and Devin Hassan, who's on vacation this week, where you and Devin were at as far as the projected 4 playoff teams back in August. You guys picked Poteet as your number 1 seed. John Tyler, reigning district champ, is number 2. McKinney North, number 3, and West Mesquite, number 4. So at the surface, and this district schedule is going to test kind of the theory of, okay, well, how much do you buy into what these teams have shown in non-district so far? Because of those 4 teams, 3 of them, Poteet, John Tyler, and West Mesquite, are a combined 1-11 on the season. Now, they've played some really tough schedules too, so you got to keep that in perspective. But at least right now, as we get ready to begin district play on Friday, where are you at as far as this district goes? Have your picks changed from those top 4?
I think North. This might be the year they win their first outright district title.
Okay, so you are jumping North to the front of the line.
It's going to come to. I have a funny feeling it's going to come down to them and Poteet, which I thought I picked. I think I said earlier, but them and Poteet for the district title, the last game. Hopefully Devin be there because I have to be at Crosstown, and then so those two teams will be in the playoffs. John Tyler, they just got too much athleticism for this district for them not to find a way to sneak in. And then I'm gonna put in Texarkana and Texas High. In fact, I think Texas High may be John Tyler, and John Tyler be 4th, and Texas High will be 3rd. They got some explosive dudes out there at Texarkana.
With McKinney North, I mean, I'm just trying to think of how many times they're going to be on the picket line for the rest of the season, and how much of a white knuckle ride it's going to be having to decide whether to pick them to win or lose each week, because they're a Big 12 team on bath salts is what they've been.
I got some numbers for you. I know you're a numbers guy.
Sure.
Dylan Markowitz, quarterback from McKinney North, 78 for 100 out of 107, 16 tubs, 0 picks, 1,437 yards, leads class for 5A. In the whole area.
What about the defense? Because that is all that matters right now.
They had a good showing.
I know they can score points, and I know that they are going to score points. They're probably going to score them on just about everybody they play. But, I mean, you've seen the results. You've seen them in person. I mean, that defense that's what makes it so tough to kind of gauge what they're capable of week in, week out, because the range of outcomes is just so vast for them when you have a defense that's giving up 50.5 points per game, or no, not 51.2 points per game and 603 yards per game.
they made some steps in the right direction last week because Rockwall Heath has been putting up good numbers. I think they were averaging 40 plus. So they held a 6-18, a legit 6-18. That's going to be in a playoff in their district.
I don't think so.
Something they're not going to be in the race.
I don't know. No, maybe. I don't know. I think. Well, that's off topic. But nevertheless,
but they held them under 40.
It's a 6A program.
Yeah, they held them under 40. They got they had 3 turnovers and had some pressure. I think basically they got to find a way to get physical. Coach Villarreal has some very good schemes. It's all about tackling and executing.
It's so crazy to sit here and talk about. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast last week. All you have to do, if they hold a team to 30 points. They win.
They should.
Like that's in theory. That's how you will win. If you just hold a team to somewhere between 25 and 35 points, you should win every single time. And that's crazy because that defense can't even do that sometimes. And that's the hard part. It's got to be so frustrating to watch that team or coach that team and be like, if y'all could, it's almost like the Oklahoma problem.
Oh yeah,
of 2 or 3 years.
It is the Oklahoma problem.
All you have to do is be average, and you will win. You will beat everybody, and you can't even go out and be average every week. And last week was certainly an improvement.
Yeah,
I mean that's definitely better. You hold a team under 40 for them, you're probably going to win those games.
But the being around these guys, they hear what people say, they hear what the Taylors say, the people in the morning dudes.
I'm not the only one.
Taylor, you're the worst.
I'm not the only one, and it's true. I don't hate these kids individually. Y'all give up a lot of points. So
they're taking this to heart. So like I said, they took a step in the right direction. I'm gonna hold out judgment and see what they can do because traditionally they found a way to give themselves a chance to win games, and the offense hadn't been as good as they are this year, and they used to putting up 40 points a game. So I'm gonna let the process play out.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers as far as that defense goes. It's not what anybody says. That's so let's see. As far as the other teams in the district, you have Poteet, which was the projected district champion between you and Devon. So far, it's been a bit of an up and down start for them. They did get their first win of the season last week. They took down a Tyler Lee team that's been a bit hot to start the season. I know Devon was the only person on the pick line who picked them, so at least we were collectively a little down on where Poteet had shown so far. And much like John Tyler, much like West Mesquite, they've just played a really difficult schedule, which makes it a little bit tougher to kind of gauge what to expect out of them going forward. I mean, their losses have come to programs like Denton Ryan. We know what Denton Ryan is. Mansfield Summit. They're both undefeated teams. Their big issues have been, 7 turnovers across their first 3 games. The defense has taken some lumps. Across those first 3 games, they surrendered at least 33 points and 450 yards in each game. Now they did get back on track against Tyler Lee. They beat them 19-14, which, if that's a sign that defense is at least capable of dialing it up a notch, because obviously they will need to, because given the caliber of offenses that are in this district. And plus, it also helps to have Seth McGowan back. Seth McGowan's only played in 2 of their 4 games this season.
Know he's hurt.
And then when he's been on the field, though, he's been his usual awesome self. He's averaging around 7.5 yards per carry. He was huge against Tyler Lee. He had 175 yards on 26 carries. If he's in the lineup, they're going to have a puncher's chance against anybody in that district, and they should be favored over most of the teams in that district to be sure. It's just a question of how much do you read into what they've shown so far against teams that are a bit higher up than what they're going to see.
I think they'll be there in the end. Like I said, I seriously think it's going to be North and Poteet and Hanby the last game of the year for that district title.
So if you have to pick, again, we're making predictions. So as far as who you think is the district champion right now, are you the Bulldogs have shown enough to where you're vaulting them up past Poteet, or where are you at as far as that goes? Going into Hanby.
If it was at MISD, I'll put say book it. I can't say book it yet. I just know they'll be in the mix.
And then you got a team like John Tyler, which again, it's been at least you can look at most of these teams and find a statement level performance in there, and just haven't seen that yet from John Tyler. They're 0-4. And granted, the opponents they've played are a combined 12-4 on the season. Teams like Mesquite Horn, Tyler Lee, if you believe in grading them out how they both performed against a common opponent. They got drilled by Tyler Lee, whereas Poteet was able to beat them. And then they played Longview's Longview, and then Euless Trinity, which is going to be a tough matchup for anybody. I
think they slither in. I think they get 4th seed, but they definitely taking a step back. It's definitely taking a step back.
It's going to require an uptick in what they've shown on offense. They've scored only 34 points total this season.
Oh, that gets you beat. That's North by halftime.
That's 8.5 per game, and they've scored just 17 points total over the last 3 games. They're completing only just under 37% of their passes between Cameron Ford, Isaiah Johnson. Ford does double as their leading ball carrier at 53 rushes, but he's only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. Offense has just been such a chore for them. Max Preps only has them listed as 2 sacks from their defense. It's just they haven't really had much go right to start the year. But competition is, you got to keep that in perspective. That's been arguably the toughest non-district schedule of anybody in 7-5A D1.
And then also too, there's a team I'm missing. West Mesquite. They're a real funny team to predict because they have a whole bunch of athletes that can put it together that one night, and that'd be that one night they put it together, but they're not consistent. But they could easily upset a North, upset a OT real easily.
They've got one of the better running backs in the year. Ty Jordan committed to Texas.
That's 240 yards right there. He can go off.
And he has been their engine. They've scored 10 touchdowns on offense. He has 7 of them.
He's very explosive.
So McKinney North has Sherman coming up on Friday, and this was the game last year that kind of threw everybody off the scent for a moment in this district, and wound up ultimately being the game that decided that last playoff spot, with Sherman squeaking in over West Mesquite. Sherman's coming off one of the more eye-popping defensive performances when they held a Justin Northwest team that McKinney North had its hands full with. They held them to 6 points, which seems unfathomable given the caliber of talent that they have on that offense. Sherman's hot. They've won 3 straight, so I mean, what do you make of this matchup on Friday?
They can't play every game at Bearcat Stadium. That's where we know how explosive North's offense has been the last 5-6 years. Last year, the lowest game of the year, they scored 21 points at Bearcat Stadium. So this year, the North's indirectly, they talked about it. They hadn't really hyped it up. I think they undercover got this game circled after being embarrassed last year. I remember talking to Coach Vecchi because I wasn't at the game because it was in Sherman. Hey, what happened? He said, I woke up the next day and it was a dream. I thought it was, then I found out it was for real.
They scored like 21 points against them or something like that?
They don't score 21 points.
That seems
and the other thing, they even had like a 60-yard onside kick that Sherman got. That's how bad things went.
Goodness.
So what could go wrong went wrong. So with them going to the friendly confidence of MISD Stadium, I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout or anything. I'm just going to say that the North Bulldogs will find a way to get a win. They're not going to lose their district opener at home.
So if I've got you right, then right now your tentative top 4 in this district is Poteet, North, John Tyler, and Texas High, as you mentioned.
And 5th, I can see John Tyler getting sleepy and Sherman sliding in.
All right, well, let's see. That is a look at 7-5A Division I. Brian, Taylor, let's get you guys back in the mix for a look at a district that I'm sure is going to look quite different from where you guys projected back in August. 7-5A Division II. Now, your preseason predictions back in August, Brian.
I don't want to hear it.
You went Reedy, Denison, Lovejoy, and Frisco. Taylor, you went Reedy, Lovejoy, Denison, and Lake Dallas.
Can I start?
You didn't have Frisco.
Can I start? I know. That's what I want to start. I want to start there. I apologize to the Raccoons. Maybe it was a holdover from my high school days. I couldn't take it. Who knows what it was?
Need to let it go, man. It's been a long time.
I have Frisco.
Centennial was the little brother to Frisco in my early days.
I have Frisco going from out of the playoffs to I think they're going to win the district.
Oh, yeah.
I could have told you that.
I think they're going to
I told you they were legit. I saw them in the scrimmage against North.
I think they're beating Reedy this week. I'll go ahead and say that now. We have them on the picket line. I think they're beating Reedy. I don't think there's another team in the district that, Frisco is just so consistent. They've got it figured out. I don't know what the heck I was thinking or what I was smoking back then, but Frisco, I think, wins this district with Reedy down the way it is.
They're explosive.
I mean, we should have known when they went to state in 7-on-7. I don't know.
I had to see them against the scrimmage against North, and all I know is I saw two or three different brothers score over 50-yard touchdowns. Right. Like usually in high school, you see like a Marvin Mims or Miles Pikes. Like, man, that kid, number 7 he balling, or number 11 he just balling. They got multiple guys that can.
Oh, they have like 4 or 5 guys.
That's what the problem is. You don't know who it is.
It also just shows you how crazy this freaking district is, though, because I don't blame myself for what I picked either, because back then I can see justification for exactly what I had. I mean, it's, with Brandon Ingle completely healthy, I think Lake Dallas was supposed to be a lot better. They've lost to Princeton. I think Lake Dallas isn't even a postseason team. Denison's been up and down without Jadarian Price. Lovejoy's kind of figured it. I mean,
Denison should have beaten Reedy, or could have beaten Reedy. They barely lost 35-32.
Reedy was up for the entire game.
True. And it came
Denison made a late push to make it a little interesting.
Yeah, and came to an onside kick. Braswell did the same thing to Frisco. Frisco was kind of in control, and Braswell scored like 2 touchdowns in less than a minute, and then they almost got the onside kick at the end. They only lost by 5 to Frisco. So, man, Braswell, a team we didn't even mention, to finish top 4, they could be a playoff team.
I mean, they started off the season with a statement win over Red Oak, who was state ranked at the time.
And their losses have been no shame. I mean, Burleson's just Burleson, not Centennial.
Yeah.
Burleson's good. They lost by 12. There's nothing wrong with that loss.
I think they beat Lovejoy this week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Taylor wasn't ready for that one.
No. Oh, what you got to say about that?
I don't know. I think that's going to be a great football game. I will say that. I mean, I could see it going either way. That's going to be a great football game between
2 playoff caliber teams. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about at the start with Frisco, just like the impact of having at least the threat of a passing game and what Cardi Green has been able to do with as far as adding that extra dimension and going back through and just checking area-wide team rankings where everybody ranks statistically. Frisco has the number 1 offense among 7-5A Division II programs so far at almost 450 yards per game. They have the number 19 passing offense in the area among 5A teams right now, which I would be fascinated to go back through the archives and find out the last time that happened, on top of having the number 5 rushing offense, which is to be expected given their
flat T.
Corey Green wasn't even a quarterback last year. He was on the varsity, but he was like a linebacker, running back. They were moving him around all these different spots, and he just went up to Coach Harbor. I mean, he mentioned it in the interview we had on the podcast last week. He was like, I went up to him mid-season. I was like, hey, let me play quarterback, because he played in middle school. And he was like, all right. Well, it was Vance Gibson at the time, but he was like, all right, they needed a change, and he went in there mid-season. And that's all she wrote. And for the first time ever, Frisco threw for more yards in a game than they ran in a win since like 2013. It's just crazy, man. This team is so dynamic. It really does boil back to when they made it to state in 7-on-7 because they have so many skill guys. Like you said, you saw in their scrimmage with McKinney North.
They got track speed.
Yeah, man. Chase Lowry, Blake May.
They can fly.
It goes on and on. Bryson Clemens is one of the area leaders in rushing too, man. And I haven't even mentioned Corey Green airing the ball out, man. It's insane. They scored up 76 points last week against Lebanon Trail, man. It's that offense.
That's how you're supposed to be Lebanon Trail, because there's been a couple teams that have played
that haven't
Memorials
done
and Lebanon Trails that have been a little bit.
They haven't beaten them by as much as they should.
That game had its moments early on, though. Going back through, that was a pseudo-competitive game in the first half. This was it was a 7-point game late in the second quarter, and then
next thing you know, they have 76 points.
Just because they do have they can rattle on. I think Blake May had like a 75-yard touchdown or whatever to begin the second half, and they just kind of rolled from there. Their defense has been a little bit vulnerable. Teams have moved the ball a bit on them. I want to say it's their last 3 games they've given up at least 450 yards. So that is worth noting, at least, as much as we want to heap praise on the offense. Yeah. At least looking ahead to Friday, which is their biggest test to date, I would say. With them, we're obviously all we're all in. They're flying up the power rankings in this district. The consensus pick for district champion, though, is still a team that we're not really sure what to make as far as Reedy. As far as kind of where they obviously, you guys, we're off the idea of them repeating as district champions. But as far as where they slot into this district,
you see them play, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw them play the Colony.
saw them at their lowest point.
So that doesn't really
because that's not them. That's not what they are.
I think the last couple of weeks really highlight. I don't know what the heck to make of this team because they beat Lake Dallas by 6.
It's a young team that's been very inconsistent to start the year.
You should beat Lake Dallas by more than 6. Sorry, Falcons, but you.
And it was a game that they led 27-0 at the half.
Yeah,
or something to that tune.
Lake Dallas got beat by Princeton. And not that Princeton's awful. I mean, they came into the year expecting to be competitive, but that just shows you the tier that Lake Dallas is in. And you beat Lake Dallas by 6, and then you beat a good Denison team
that had
35-32. Yeah, and if Jadarian Price was 100%, who knows? But still, he was playing in the game.
And it was in Denison, for what it's worth.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a great win. So now it's just
man, if Reedy didn't go 13-1 last year and then almost beat Aledo in the 4th round of the playoffs, we'd be saying, man, Reedy is the best team in this district. Look how they beat Denison on the road. Look how they hung on to beat Lake Dallas. They're 3-1, 2-0 district. They could, them in Frisco are so good. But instead, we're like, man,
for what it's worth, they're still no lower than 2 for me.
For sure.
I mean, it's going to come down, I think, to this week's game. If they beat Frisco, then I think they probably just.
They haven't lost that game where they shouldn't have lost. It's just the way they're winning games. They're not. It's not last
Yeah.
year. They're not winning by
It's not
40.
as flashy as the way Frisco
Exactly.
doing it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well,
or
there's
as flashy as they did last year.
It feels like there's no guarantee. Like it almost feels like you know what you're going to get out of Frisco. For better or worse, you kind of know what Frisco is. I don't know what Reedy is. I mean, are they going to be the team that beat Denison on the road, or are they going to be the team that, you know, almost lost to Lake Dallas? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
and it wouldn't surprise me if they beat Frisco.
no,
I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me either. No,
These feel like telltale signs of a young team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's the thing about this game against Frisco. If they were playing Frisco in early November, when the guys have when they've grown up a bit more and are a bit more sure of their identity and what their strengths and weaknesses lie, then it's just tough because you're getting what could be the best team in the district this early into the district schedule, and like the Reedy that you see on Friday, it's not necessarily indicative of what you're going to see a team later.
or they might just
when
go
they've
out
grown
and
up a bit.
beat Frisco by 3 touchdowns, and we all just look like.
I mean, they still have.
Who knows?
They still. Have freaking Will Harbor.
Yeah, like, I mean,
he was
just
doing
so
everything. I saw Matt Stepp tweeting about him. I don't know if that was his first time seeing him play. I'm sure it wasn't, but he was just ranting and raving about how good Will Harbor is. I'm like, I know
him. They've still got talent and size up front like they had last year. Nate Anderson's one of the best offensive linemen in the state. I mean, they still have talent. It's just in certain areas they've just been a little bit slower.
The rest of the offense is just brand new. Yeah. When they plug in Will Harbor in those certain packages, Wildcat short yardage packages, they move the chains, but Granted, I haven't seen them play since the Colony. It seems like they were going back and forth between Jalen Kitten and AJ Padgett. It looks like Jalen Kitten is the guy. I'll see this week. I'm going to see them play Frisco. They're going to be really tested this week. This is going to be their biggest test by far since the Colony.
Yep.
I think,
like I said, district championship game. I think.
And this will tell a lot. If Frisco goes in and beats them by 20 plus, by 3 scores, it's going to be like, oh, Reedy, they may not be the second best team. But if then they go beat Frisco, then it's like, are they the district champs? This district is wild, man.
But as we sit here right now, so if you guys have to, it's Frisco 1, Reedy 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what about 3 and 4? Have those changed from, Brian, you had Lovejoy and Frisco as your 3 and 4. Taylor, you had Denison and Lake Dallas.
Right now, tentatively, this is all just so up in the air, but I will take Frisco, Reedy. I think Denison's shown enough. They have Jadarian Price back and healthy. If he plays the rest of the year, I think they're clearly the third best team. I think they can beat the other. It might, when they play Lovejoy, maybe Lovejoy sneaks up and get them and things change. But I'll pencil Denison in. Okay. Just based on how they've played, especially with him coming back. That Reedy game. If we're going to say Reedy's the second best team, then them losing by 3 to Reedy,
Is there anything with Lovejoy that's kind of thrown you off as to what you're expecting out of them?
No, I guess to finish out my rankings, I'll put Lovejoy 4. Mm-hmm. I think they're a postseason team. There's no giant red flags with Lovejoy. I just don't think they're as good as they were last year. Yeah. I think that they're fine. I think that Ralph Rucker's been totally serviceable. He's only getting better, leading that offense. I think their offense is fine. It's a typical Lovejoy team. They got receivers. I think they're fine. There's nothing that threw me off the scent from Lovejoy outside of especially how they rebounded from that terrible first game against Colorado Heritage. They've come back. They beat a bad Sulphur Springs team like they should have. They beat Memorial like they should have. So I think Lovejoy's fine. I think that 4 spot comes down to Lovejoy and Braswell. And I think Lovejoy maybe just has the tiniest of edges, and this week's game could determine that. So I could easily see Braswell jumping in there. I could see Denison. They are still pretty young. If Jadarian Price isn't 100% or gets hurt, I could see them falling all the way out. That's why it's so hard. I think the last 2 spots are some combination of Denison, Lovejoy, and Braswell. Who knows? Who knows what the heck happens? But for now, I'll go.
Without Price, Denison doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then it'd be Lovejoy and Braswell. I think Braswell could be as high as a number 3 seed in this district. Braswell, they've shown a lot, in their games so far this year, like you mentioned. And I'm predicting them to beat Lovejoy this week. And if they do, especially, then I think they could be definitely the 3 seed.
If they beat Lovejoy this week, they're a postseason team.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Because that's one of the biggest hurdles left. I guess.
Awesome, and that is a look at some what's shaking in 7-5A Division 2. Is this district schedule? It feels like we're kind of cheating because this district schedule is already, entering its its 3rd week.
Yeah, but the big games are this week and forward.
This is the first. This is the first real week where you have some contenders going against each other. So it'll be fascinating to see how that shakes out. A couple of those games are up on our Game of the Week poll, which you can go to our website starlocalmedia.com and vote on, and that'll be the subject of Thursday's podcast. We'll preview whatever y'all vote as the Game of the Week, plus some of the other marquee matchups on the docket for this week. That'll do it for this episode of the podcast. Appreciate you gentlemen for tagging along, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk to y'all later.